Welcome to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram's Immigration News Show. Today we ask, can Mayor Mamdani inspire immigrant dreams? We would like to thank attorney Chris M. Ingram and staff at the law offices of Chris M. Ingram for their hard work in preparing the research for this show, which draws on a wide variety of news sources from both sides of the aisle, providing a balanced view. Attorney Ingram is also a vocal advocate for the rights and protection of immigration applicants, although our coverage is designed to be nonpartisan. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. We are also on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Reddit, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. You can also visit our website on www.breakthroughusa.com. We'd love to see you there. Disclaimer. Please note that this presentation should not be intended as legal advice for your specific situation. If you, a friend, or a family member would like a free consultation, you can visit our website at www.breakthroughusa.com and schedule an appointment. We'd love to hear from you and help you if we can. We'd also like to point out that this presentation was created using AI hosts. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the U.S. immigration landscape, focusing specifically on the context that makes this conversation vital for STEM innovators, researchers, and problem solvers like you. Our legal team's research is meticulously compiled. It's not, a political treatise, but a data-driven, human-centered narrative designed for those who seek to debug systems, not ideologies.
That framing is essential. Really important, because when we discuss immigration in the context of advanced science and technology, we are ultimately discussing American competitiveness and global leadership. It's that simple.
Right.
The research highlights that historically, this constant influx of talent has been the lifeblood of American discovery. I mean, we immediately recall figures like Albert Einstein, whose work redefined relativity right here on American soil. Or maybe more recently, individuals like Elon Musk, who came here and pioneered reusable rockets, transforming entire industries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Immigrant minds have consistently, redefined what is achievable.
And the data we reviewed, it really substantiates the immediate current stakes for the STEM community. Yeah. This isn't just abstract concepts, right? It's about who is running the labs and developing the patents right now.
Precisely. We are profoundly reliant on foreign talent. The studies show that immigrants account for roughly 27% of all physicians practicing in the U.S. That's over a quarter. And that jumps to 33% of software engineers, a third. But here's the most striking data point our team found. 40%. 40% of all Nobel laureates in the sciences since the year 2000 were born abroad.
40%. That's huge.
It's staggering. Our advanced research facilities, our university labs, our major tech centers literally run on the work provided by H-1B visa holders. And, our nascent startups depend critically on the extensions provided by optional practical training, or OPT.
So if that global knowledge flow is constricted, even slightly,
the innovation engine immediately slows down. It has to.
The narrative arc our team compiled is fascinating because it paints this mosaic of disruption, showing a system that is simultaneously capable of producing extraordinary success and, immense friction.
Yes. The four key narratives we will explore show the system in radical flux. It's pulling in different directions. First, we begin with the extraordinary individual triumph of Diana Trujillo, moving from cleaning houses, literally, to commanding a Mars mission. That's possibility right there.
Incredible story.
Then we examine the political leadership signal provided by Zohran Mamdani's historic election in New York, promising inclusive policy change from the ground up. That's hope.
Okay.
But on the flip side, we have new federal policy barriers, like the $1,000 parole fee, which effectively, prices out humanitarian entrance. It's a real barrier.
A roadblock.
A roadblock. And finally, the long-term, ongoing systemic bottleneck represented by the incremental and often discouraging movements in the November 2025 visa bulletin cutoffs.
So we're looking at variables in the core equation of American competitiveness, where inspiration, butts up against infrastructure failure.
The friction is immense. The research we studied noted that in 2024, immigrants founded 55%, over half of all U.S. unicorn startups, those valued at over $1 billion each.
55%.
And they file patents at twice the rate of native-born citizens, twice the rate. Yet federal policies, whether it's a punitive fee structure or decade-long visa waits, often work directly against fostering that innovative spirit. We must understand both the potential and the policy choke points to really get the full picture.
Okay, it's time to dive into that first story of immense resilience and talent. Our researchers call this the highest potential of the American dream. Let's start with Diana Trujillo. We're talking about a teenage immigrant who arrived with just $300 in minimal English, rising to become a commander overseeing a multi-billion-dollar mission to Mars. Sounds like fiction.
It really does. Diana Trujillo's story, honestly, it should be a foundational piece of mandatory reading for anyone in STEM who seeks inspiration or mentorship. Born in Cali, Colombia, back in 1983, she arrived in Miami at just 17. 17. Our legal research emphasizes the sheer lack of infrastructure she had. $300, a one-way ticket, and basically just a Spanish-English dictionary. She had virtually no network, forcing her to rebuild her life from absolute zero.
That initial period, the research terms the dual life, I mean, it must have been grueling. She couldn't just enroll in university. She had to survive first, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was a monumental feat of dedication. Her very first job was cleaning houses and commercial properties, scrubbing floors. She would work from midnight until dawn.
Midnight to dawn.
Yes. And the sole purpose: to earn enough money to pay for English classes and tuition at community college during the day in Denver. She often recounts the exhaustion, the physical toll, the blistered hands, but the mental grind was even more intense. Those long nights mopping floors were the capital she needed to invest in mastering complex subjects like calculus and physics by day.
It's the definition of delayed gratification, isn't it? And it fundamentally paid off in her academic path.
Absolutely. That relentless schedule earned her a transfer to the University of Florida, a great engineering school, where she secured a BS in aerospace engineering in 2007. And the transition, it was powered by talent. Her senior project, a highly specialized robotic arm prototype, was apparently so advanced and compelling that it immediately attracted the attention of NASA.
NASA. Wow. So moving from janitorial staff to the absolute pinnacle of American science at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, that's a massive shift.
It was a pivotal moment. It happened in 2008. She joined JPL as an intern, but, not just any intern. Our research notes she was one of only 2 selected from thousands of international and domestic applicants.
The other thousands.
Yes. So she immediately found visibility and mentorship and rapidly moved up the ranks. By 2014, she wasn't just working on the projects. She was a mission lead on the Curiosity rover, responsible for designing the highly technical, precise drill sequences required to collect Martian rock samples. Highly complex work.
And then the breakthrough moment that made her story global came during the Perseverance mission in 2021. I remember seeing that.
Yes. That moment, it just perfectly encapsulated her journey. She served as flight director for the Perseverance mission when the rover successfully executed its incredibly difficult landing on Mars, February 18th, 2021. Her voice was the one that delivered the historic command announcing, "Touchdown confirmed." And she delivered the message in both Spanish and English, broadcast globally to millions. The technical achievement, the rover safely on the surface, ready to seek signs of past life, was just inextricable from the human triumph of the immigrant who delivered the news.
Her impact didn't stop there, though. She is now focused on the next generation, which is so crucial for our listener base, for you out there in STEM.
That's right. At just 42, her trajectory continues upward. She is currently the lead flight director for the Artemis II mission. This is a mammoth undertaking.
Huge.
Overseeing all robotic systems, ensuring the Orion spacecraft's arm can deploy and retrieve experiments during humanity's planned return to the moon by 2026. This work paves the way for a sustained human lunar presence. And beyond JPL, she founded the Latinas in STEM Foundation in 2022.
Right.
Which actively mentors over 500 young girls. And crucially, the outcome is measurable. 68% of her mentees pursue STEM degrees.
68%. That's compared to what national average?
Well, it's more than double the national average for Latinas. It shows what targeted mentorship can do.
Wow. The research connects her individual journey to the broader economic narrative perfectly. Her achievements aren't just inspirational. They translate into tangible, innovative output, don't they?
Absolutely. Her algorithms are constantly optimizing power usage on Mars, extending the life and capability of the mission. The robotic arm she helped design and command has successfully collected 24 samples of Martian rock, each a potential scientific treasure trove. Real, measurable contributions.
And the statistical proof confirms her value, and the value of immigrants generally, to high-level engineering. Our researchers pointed out that 33% of U.S. engineers are foreign-born, and a 2023 National Science Foundation study found that immigrant-led teams file 45% more patents in robotics than native-only groups.
45% more patents. That gap in patent filing, that's the difference between leading global innovation and following it. It's that stark.
Yeah.
The takeaway, as summarized by our attorneys, is that her odyssey from janitor to mission commander is the essence of immigrant triumph.
USCIS is cracking down on visa fraud, and even approved cases are being revoked.
Why was my visa denied? USCIS revoked my approval. At the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, we handle every detail with care. Every form, every fact, every time.
So join us for a free consultation. We do things the right way. Let us take care of you.
Reminding newcomers that your hurdles are launch pads. But the strategic lesson for the U.S. is simple. The rover on Mars doesn't care where its commander was born. Talent solves the equation.
Right.
The key challenge is creating a system that retains and empowers that talent rather than, pushing it away through bureaucracy or financial barriers. What's fascinating here, I think, is how that individual triumph, that proof of concept provided by Diane Trujillo's success, can potentially create the necessary political momentum. Now we move from the surface of Mars to the streets of New York City, where a historic election signals hope for inclusive leadership that might actually counteract some of those national policy headwinds we just touched on.
This is a massive transition, yeah. Moving from a scientist operating at the federal level, basically, to a politician taking the reins of the largest city in the nation. The election of Zohran Mamdani, it seems to represent a real rejection of nativist narratives that we hear sometimes.
It absolutely does. The election details are remarkable, illustrating a profound shift in political will, or at least in New York. On November 4th, 2025, Zohran Mamdani, who was 34 at the time, a Democratic Socialist and state assembly member, secured the New York mayoral victory with a convincing 50.4% of the vote.
Pretty clear majority.
Yes. He defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who mounted a significant independent bid and secured 41.6%. So it was a decisive win.
And the research pointed out the turnout was historic. This wasn't some quiet election people ignored.
No, it wasn't quiet at all. Over 2 million New Yorkers cast their ballots. That marked the highest mayoral election turnout since 1969.
Wow, since 69.
Yeah. This unprecedented engagement was significantly propelled by a surge of young voters, coupled with the immigrant communities who identified deeply with Mamdani's personal narrative. I mean, he was born in Uganda to Indian parents of Gujarati heritage, immigrated to New York as a child, and was naturalized as a U.S. citizen in his youth. His story resonated.
And his win makes history on multiple fronts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Reflecting the true demographic complexity of New York City.
That's right. Mamdani is now New York's first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, and the youngest since 1897. But the crucial point for our deep dive, the context that makes him relevant to the STEM community, to you, is that he is the city's first naturalized immigrant mayor in decades.
First naturalized immigrant mayor in decades.
Yes, that sends a powerful structural signal that the city is committed to immigrant leadership, or at least open to it.
And he leaned into that identity immediately in his victory speech. That promise, New York will remain a city of immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. That's a direct statement against any federal tightening, isn't it?
It is a deliberate political and social promise, absolutely. And for the STEM community specifically, Mamdani's victory signals a powerful commitment to inclusion. Why? Because immigrants drive approximately 40% of tech startups.
40%.
And 30% of biotech research conducted within the city limits. New York's entire tech sector is valued at over $400 billion, and that immense engine requires a constant, reliable infusion of global talent. You can't turn off that tap.
So his platform has to reflect the recognition of that reliance. What concrete policy implications does his administration propose for STEM that directly challenge those federal bottlenecks we mentioned?
Well, his platform is very specific and strategic. Now, obviously, he cannot change federal law directly. He is a mayor.
Right, he can't rewrite the INA.
Exactly. But he can use the power of the city. He explicitly supports lobbying Congress to expand the availability of H-1B visas for skilled workers. Crucially, he also pledges city funds to support STEM scholarships for undocumented youth who face those huge legal barriers to federal aid. And he specifically vowed to fight federal overreach on visas, recognizing that the federal brain drain has already caused 15% of international graduates to leave New York post-OPT due to backlogs. He sees them leaving.
15% leaving just because of backlogs. That's a loss. Now, you mentioned local work authorizations. How would a city like New York even implement that? I mean, isn't that legally impossible if the federal government controls immigration?
That is the core legal and strategic question. Absolutely.
Right.
It's thorny. Our researchers suggest that Mamdani's team is exploring models, perhaps similar to local ID programs like ID NYC, but expanding them to grant municipal work authorizations,
Oh, yeah?
perhaps tied to city contracts or maybe highly localized industries. The concept is that while these permits don't authorize national employment, they could provide a crucial legal status and ability to work within New York City for highly skilled individuals caught in years of green card limbo or facing DACA uncertainty.
Oh, okay.
It's an attempt to retain talent locally, maybe even forcing the federal government to respond to the reality of the city's economic need. It's pushing the envelope.
That sounds like his economic strategy is focused on creating a sort of localized talent sanctuary, optimizing the city's algorithm despite the friction coming from Washington.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. His focus on making the city more affordable, which, frees up venture capital for R&D, and his commitment to fighting federal restrictions is about ensuring diverse inputs yield better outputs. The city's success algorithm is fundamentally based on diversity, and Mamdani's administration aims to maximize that input.
The international reaction to his victory also shows how important this is for the global perception of the U.S., doesn't it?
It was a global event, yeah. London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who himself is the son of immigrants, offered immediate congratulations, highlighting that New Yorkers chose hope over fear. Locally, the support was immense, with people like Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stating that electing Mamdani sends a loud message to Trump that our city fights for the future. It was seen as a rallying cry for municipal resistance.
Our researchers at attorney Chris Ingram called Mamdani's election a radiant affirmation of immigrant leadership, proving that naturalized voices can helm major U.S. cities.
Yes, the analysis highlights a powerful truth. His rise is a catalyst, a living, breathing proof that welcoming roots can yield towering branches of leadership. His victory isn't merely a political shift, it's an existential statement in a nation that's debating the merits of tightening its borders. And for those in STEM, for you listening, it is a reminder that the systems we design thrive on the varied problem-solving perspectives that only diverse global talent can provide.
So we've discussed profound individual triumph with Diana Trujillo and the civic hope offered by Zohran Mamdani. Now we pivot abruptly. We have to talk about the systemic barriers that directly undermine these narratives. And here is where the bureaucratic friction hits the human experience hardest. We're talking about the new $1,000 parole fee.
Yeah, this is tough. If Mamdani's election is a blueprint for inclusion, this new fee is a concrete administrative blockade. It took effect on October 16th, 2025. The Department of Homeland Security implemented a $1,000 fee for virtually anyone granted parole into the country.
$1,000 just for parole status.
Yes. And this measure was mandated as a user fee funding mechanism tucked within the legislative package known broadly as H.R. 1. It wasn't a standalone immigration bill. It was part of a larger funding mechanism.
Okay. We need to understand the technical scope of who is affected here, because this is not about highly funded visa applicants, right?
Yeah.
This is about people needing essential humanitarian lifelines.
That is the critical distinction. You've hit it exactly. This fee applies to humanitarian programs. We're talking about individuals fleeing the Taliban in Afghanistan, Ukrainians escaping active war zones, Venezuelans dodging economic and political collapse, people in dire straits.
Right.
And crucially, it also applies to family members, like that example our researchers found, a Syrian engineer's spouse awaiting reparole to join her husband's ongoing green card process in the U.S. The fee is mandatory and must be paid upon approval before entry is even granted. You have to pay up front.
$1,000 is, well, it's a financial choke point for people often fleeing persecution with literally nothing but the clothes on their backs.
It is an immense burden. Our legal team's research found that the exemptions are extraordinarily narrow, really limited, restricted mostly to specific military families under something called PIP, or urgent medical evacuations.
So very few people qualify for an exemption.
Very few. To obtain a waiver, applicants must prove imminent danger or severe financial hardship, which sounds reasonable, but it's a difficult and often impossible bureaucratic hurdle for vulnerable individuals who are, by definition, fleeing peril. They have to somehow secure this significant sum before they can accept the parole status that offers them safety.
DHS justified this by citing the need to fund enforcement through user fees and ensure foreign nationals have skin in the game. How do we analyze that justification, particularly for humanitarian entrance? Does that hold water?
Well, the DHS justification, frankly, it falls apart when viewed through the lens of humanitarian need or even economic utility. Humanitarian parole is designed as a temporary lifeline for those in urgent situations, not as a revenue generator for enforcement.
Right, that seems counterintuitive.
Furthermore, the cost is staggering when you consider the compounding fees. It's not just the $1,000 parole fee. You also need the necessary $550 fee for the Employment Authorization Document, the EAD.
So $550 total.
$550 just to get temporary status and the ability to work, often for just a one-year status initially, all while they are already waiting upwards of 10 months just for processing. It feels like a tax on trauma.
A tax on trauma. We are already seeing the chilling effect in the research, aren't we? Specifically impacting the STEM pipeline.
The human cost is immediate and measurable. Consider the Ukrainian PhD in materials science mentioned in the research. She was approved for humanitarian parole, ready to join a major U.S. lab working on a critical clean energy battery project. Vital work.
Okay.
She delayed her arrival and therefore the project by 2 months because she had to crowdfund and scrape together the $1,000 fee.
They said my EB1 needed more categories. I can't even dock. What am I gonna do?
I need to find the right lawyer that can navigate me through this crisis. I need my EB1 so my new life can begin. These lawyers are amazing. They are walking me through every questions, making sure I don't miss a thing.
Thanks to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, I'm cleared to land. But my career is gonna take off.
Houston. He got his visa.
Need help with your visa? Book your free consultation now at www.breakthroughusa.com and let us take care of you.
She watched her family's dwindling savings disappear just to secure temporary status. That delay means her U.S. lab sits idle, research is paused, and a potential technological breakthrough is postponed. The opportunity cost is massive.
And beyond the anecdotes, the economic damage of this policy is quantifiable, right?
It is. A major study by the Migration Policy Institute warns that this fee structure could slash the number of parole grants by 25%, a quarter.
Wow.
The research we analyzed highlights that this directly impacts sectors like engineering and biotech, where, as we said, 35% of advanced roles are filled by immigrants. If you cut the flow of vetted, skilled individuals by a quarter, you create a quantifiable talent vacuum. Major firms our team heard, including Intel and pharmaceutical giants, are already reporting heightened consultations on how this fee may constrain their access to international experts who often enter via parole or related family pathways.
And as with all fees, this cost isn't static. It's going to increase due to inflation, isn't it?
That's a crucial detail that is often overlooked in the initial rollout. We absolutely must note the potential for annual CPI adjustments, consumer price index, to automatically hike the fee. It could easily be $1,050 or more by FY 2026.
So it just gets harder.
It gets harder. This requires immediate planning for our community, for you listening. Auditing parole needs now, especially for vulnerable dependents like H-4 or O3 visa holders in tech hubs, before further CPI hikes make this necessary path even more financially inaccessible.
Our legal team viewed this measure as extremely detrimental. Their analysis reflected that this is not just a fee, it's a blockade on hope, urging the safeguarding of pathways to safety for the displaced who are often highly skilled and ready to contribute.
The policy is a stark reminder, really. While the U.S. absolutely needs talent, its administrative mechanisms often prioritize enforcement revenue over fostering innovation or, frankly, basic humanity. This policy tests our national resolve. We need to remember that in labs where a single engineer's insight accelerates clean energy breakthroughs, the cost of exclusion, that delayed research, is far greater than the $1,000 collected.
That's a powerful point.
While the financial barrier is clear, the human resilience to overcome these fees, often through massive community support, crowdfunding, things like that, is the only mitigating factor. But that reliance on charity should never be necessary for someone seeking safety and the chance to work. Okay, so if the parole fee is a sudden financial wall, The visa bulletin represents the long, grinding systemic bottleneck. This is the regulatory friction that defines the multi-decade wait for global talent. For our community, for you navigating this, understanding this document is essential for planning a future in the U.S.
Absolutely. For our listeners who may be working on H-1Bs or OPP but haven't filed their permanent residency yet, let's go over the core mechanics. Visa Bulletin 101. What is its fundamental purpose? Why does this thing even exist?
Right. The Visa Bulletin is essentially the State Department's monthly traffic ledger. It's crowd control for green cards. Its sole purpose is to manage the backlogs in green card availability. Because Congress imposes very strict annual limits, typically around 140,000 employment-based visas globally and critically, a per-country limit of 7% of the total visas available each year.
That 7% cap is key.
It's the linchpin of the whole backlog problem. So this bulletin determines when a visa is actually available based on an applicant's category, like EB1, EB2, EB3, and their priority date, which is usually the date their initial petition was filed with USCIS.
And our attorneys noted a critical strategic point this month. USCIS greenlit the use of two charts. This happens sometimes. We need to clarify the distinction between the final action date, FAD, and the dates for filing, DFF. This is where strategic opportunity lies, right?
This distinction is everything for people waiting years. Everything. The final action date, or FAD, is the official finish line. If your priority date is before the FAD, your green card is actually available for approval. The government can finalize your permanent residency. You get the actual green card.
Okay, that's the goal.
That's the goal. But the dates for filing, or DFF, is the strategic window. It's like a life raft. If your priority date is before the DFF cutoff, you are allowed to submit your I-485 application, the final green card application, right now.
Even if the FAD isn't current yet.
Exactly, even if the final green card isn't ready. And this is a massive advantage because filing the I-485 allows applicants to secure crucial interim benefits like obtaining an employment authorization document, EAD, and advanced parole, AP, for travel. This grants them work authorization outside the often strict limitations of an H-1B visa and the freedom to travel internationally without abandoning their green card application.
Huge for career flexibility and peace of mind.
Immense.
Let's analyze the November 2025 cutoffs, starting with the highest tier categories, the EB1 Extraordinary Ability applicants. How do they look?
Okay, EB1, this is for researchers, executives of extraordinary ability, Nobel laureates potentially. It remains current worldwide, which is generally good news for the absolute elite tier, allowing them to apply immediately. However, even ED1 sees backlogs for the highest demand nations. China is cut off at December 22, 2022, and India at February 15th, 2022.
So even for EB1, China and India face waits.
Yes. It shows that even the most exceptional talent faces waits if they come from these high-volume countries, purely because of that 7% cap.
Now for the critical category for most of our audience, EB2, advanced degrees, people with master's, PhDs, or bachelor's plus experience. How did the rest of world, ROW, fare, and how does that DFF buffer translate into opportunity for them?
Okay, for the rest of the world, everyone except China and India, basically. The final action date moved modestly forward to December 1st, 2023. This is stable, predictable movement. But the real opportunity is the dates for filing, set far ahead at July 15th, 2024.
July 2024 DFF versus December 2023 FAD.
Exactly. That 9-month buffer over the FAD represents a critical filing window. Thousands of applicants from RW countries with priority dates in the first half of 2024 can now file their I-485s. They can lock in those interim benefits, the EAD and AP, which is strategically invaluable for career continuity while they wait for the FAD to catch up.
Okay, that's good news for RW. Now let's turn to the two countries facing the deepest backlogs, China and India. This is where the 7% per country limit really causes systemic breakdown, right?
This is where the system grinds to a halt. China sees a slight advance in its FAD to April 1st, 2021, still years behind. But India is the epicenter of the volatility and the backlog crisis. The final action date for India EB2 is now set at a staggering April 1st, 2013. 2013, April 1st, 2013. I want to emphasize that date. This represents a dramatic retrogression, a significant move backward from the October cutoff, which is January 1st, 2020.
So it went from 2020 back to 2013 in 1 month.
Yes, a 7-year jump backwards. This is a critical systemic failure rooted in the 7% cap, leading to effectively a 12-plus year wait for highly skilled professionals from India in the EB2 category.
A 12-year wait. For people who are here, contributing taxes, running labs, developing patents, why? Why did the date retrogression for India EB2 move back so severely from 2020 all the way back to 2013? What is the mechanical reason for that kind of whiplash?
That is the core question that really demonstrates the flawed algorithm, or rather the impossible math Congress created. The severe retrogression is due to two main factors interacting: overwhelming demand from India and the mechanical use of spillover visas.
Okay, demand and spillover. Explain spillover.
Right. So Congress sets the annual visa limits. First, the State Department tries to allocate them based on the 7% per country cap. But because India has such enormous demand, particularly in EB2 and EB3, its annual 7% allotment is consumed almost immediately, often by applicants who filed maybe a decade ago or more.
Go.
Then USCIS and the State Department must calculate how many unused visas from other categories, maybe family-based categories or other employment categories like EB4 or EB5 that didn't use their full quota, will spill over into the oversubscribed categories, primarily EB2 and EB3 for India and China.
Unused visas get redistributed.
Exactly, but it's an estimate. If there are fewer spillover visas available than anticipated, perhaps because, say, the EB5 investor category suddenly used more visas this year, then the final action date for the backlogged countries must be pulled back drastically, sometimes by years, to prevent accidentally issuing more green cards than legally allowed for the fiscal year.
So fewer leftovers meant they had to slam the brakes on India EB2.
Precisely. Slamming the brakes resulted in that shocking jump back to 2013. It creates chaos and uncertainty.
The practical consequence of a decade-plus wait, it must be devastating, resulting in a severe brain drain.
It's an institutional knowledge hemorrhage. It really is. For STEM, where our researchers found 58% of computer science PhDs in the U.S. are international students, this slow motion is career-ending for many. The research highlights that these decade-long waits for applicants from India and China mean they are hemorrhaging to Canada and other nations.
Canada comes up a lot.
It does, because they have points-based systems and fast-track programs specifically designed for PhDs and innovators. A Caltech principal investigator recently lamented this in one report, noting they are losing critical team members who simply cannot postpone their lives, their families, their careers any longer, waiting for a U.S. green card that might never come or come too late.
But the Visa Bulletin, this month at least, does offer strategic maneuvers thanks to that DFF chart.
Feeling lost in a maze of visa types and paperwork? Don't know where to turn? We've got your back. With clear answers and real help, we'll guide you every step of the way. Let's navigate it together. Your journey starts today.
Hello, you must be Clara. Welcome to the law office of Chris M. Ingram.
Finally, I found a law firm that will help me achieve my American dream.
At this law firm, you are important to us. That's why we will be with you every step of the way. So join us at the office of Chris M. Ingram.
We need to use that UIUC materials scientist example from the research to show the strategic benefit for some.
Yes, the DFF chart is the strategic lifeline, the silver lining. Consider the UIUC materials scientist mentioned. She has a June 2023 EB2 priority date, and she's from a rest-of-world country. Her final action date is still stuck back in December 2023, so no green card approval yet.
Right.
But because the dates for filing chart is set way ahead at July 15th, 2024, she can submit her I-485 application right now in November 2025.
Even though her FAD isn't current.
Exactly. This is a massive strategic move. It protects her priority date, gets her place in the final queue, and immediately allows her to apply for an EAD and advanced parole. Once she gets those approved, maybe in a few months, she is no longer chained to the uncertainty and restrictions of her H-1B visa.
What does that mean practically?
It means she gains work flexibility. Her spouse might be able to work too, depending on the visa. And crucially, she potentially gains the ability to change jobs more easily or even start her own company without necessarily having to restart the entire green card process from scratch, which is a huge relief.
That window, however, is extremely precarious, isn't it? Because USCIS can just change the chart usage at any time, maybe even next month.
That is the crucial caveat, the sword hanging over this whole DFF opportunity. Experts caution that due to persistent high demand across categories, USCIS may choose to revert to using only the stricter final action chart by December or January. They can flip that switch with little warning.
So that DFF window could slam shut.
It could slam shut abruptly. This uncertainty creates a frantic rush for documentation and filing that is incredibly stressful but absolutely necessary for those who qualify right now under DFF. Applicants, if you qualify, you really must file immediately or risk losing years of these vital interim benefits.
Our attorneys noted that while the steady hand of the Bulletin offers a foothold for some, especially ROW, persistent backlogs mean that dignity demands faster paths for the innovators sustaining our edge.
The underlying frustration is palpable in the legal community and among applicants. The slow, incremental movements of this bulletin, punctuated by shocking retrogressions, are a constant technical reminder that while the U.S. system welcomes talent and spirit, its infrastructure, specifically that 7% cap established by Congress decades ago, is fundamentally failing to support modern demand. This bottleneck forces brilliant STEM professionals to consider alternatives, maybe complex O-1 visas, or, sadly, permanently looking abroad for nations that value their contributions more readily and predictably.
So what does this all mean when we try to synthesize these four variables? It's a lot to take in. We've covered Diana Trujillo's Mars-bound dream, Zohran Mamdani's blueprint for local change, the sudden financial barrier of the $1,000 parole toll, and the 10-year limbo created by the visa bulletin. Innovation is clearly not a zero-sum game, but policy. Wow, policy creates immense costly friction.
That synthesis creates a powerful arc, doesn't it? We move from profound personal possibility, the janitor who becomes the mission commander, to the systemic roadblocks that actively undermine that very possibility for others. Our research team reminds us that we, especially those of us in STEM, are solving complex, multivariable equations daily. Immigration is one of society's most intricate. The only path forward, it seems, requires compassion fused with political pragmatism and maybe some engineering insight applied to the system itself.
Let's break down the four practical, actionable steps the research suggests for our community of innovators and problem solvers. For you listening, what can actually be done?
Okay, 4 key areas. First, we must advocate. This means using our collective voice and influence, especially from the STEM sector, which has significant weight. We need to push for fundamental legislation like the removal of the outdated 7% per country caps in employment-based visas.
Getting rid of the country caps.
That's the structural root of the visa bulletin's failure. It has to go. We also need to demand immediate administrative fixes, such as comprehensive parole fee waivers for critical humanitarian cases and skilled contributors who shouldn't face that barrier. Our team stresses that in a democracy, silence often registers as consent. We have to use the influence that the STEM sector commands.
Okay, advocate.
Okay.
Second, innovate. If the system is broken at the federal level, we have to use our problem-solving skills to create our own bridges and resources, maybe locally or within institutions.
Exactly. This is about applying our problem-solving acumen to the human resource issue itself. We need to build mentorship and resource pipelines, exactly like Diana Trujillo's foundation does, to uplift and support the next generation facing these hurdles. Companies and universities must actively create bridge programs, maybe fellowships, and establish emergency funds, like MIT's $2 million example that came up in the research for benched international researchers who are stuck in visa limbo waiting for their green cards. We need to apply code, capital, and creativity to solve this resource crisis locally.
Love that. Innovate our way around the blockages. Third, empathize. This often gets lost in the policy jargon, the acronyms, the complex dates of the visa bulletin, but it's fundamentally about remembering the human journey behind every application number.
It is absolutely vital. We must remember the postdoc who missed a parent's funeral because travel outside the country while their I-485 was pending felt too risky, potentially triggering a re-entry ban. Or the founder who built a unicorn startup creating hundreds of jobs but cannot bring his aging parents to the country to care for them due to restrictive family-based quotas and backlogs.
These are real lives.
Real lives, real families. Immigration is not abstract paperwork. It's life interrupted. Our engagement in advocacy and innovation must reflect that deep, empathetic understanding of the human cost of delay and uncertainty.
And finally, act locally. Change often starts not with a grand announcement in Washington, D.C., which can feel distant, but right where we live and work.
Absolutely. We must actively support municipal initiatives. Things like Mamdani's potential local work permits for DACA recipients or his proposed STEM inclusion programs in New York City schools. We can fund local legal aid organizations that help vulnerable parole applicants who simply cannot afford the new $1,000 fee. As the research notes, change starts where we stand. It allows us to build a local infrastructure that maybe resists federal overreach and protects local talent, ensuring that the innovators who power our cities and labs can actually stay put and contribute.
This isn't about instant fixes, is it?
Mm-hmm.
The truth we in STEM know best is that progress is iterative. It's messy. We don't solve climate change or cure cancer in one go. We build, we test, we fail, we refine the model. Immigration reform seems exactly the same.
It really does.
The $1,000 fee is like a bug in the code. The EB2 backlog is a legacy algorithm that desperately needs updating for the 21st century. Our challenge, maybe, is a failure of empathy that we, as a nation of problem solvers, can and must fix. The next Einstein, the next Musk, the next Trujillo is not waiting for perfect conditions. They are already knocking at the door. When we answer, we don't just let in a person, we let in the future.
And that is the indispensable message, isn't it? We must craft policies and systems that reflect the reality that talent knows no borders, and that resilience, like Trujillo showed us, is often forged in hardship. Diana Trujillo built a career on grit. Zohran Mamdani translated that grit into political action. Our role now, perhaps, is to code the systems to support them, not inhibit them.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gained a lot from this discussion. Please leave us a comment if you can. Additionally, you can support our channel by sharing it with your friends and family, helping us build this community together. Also, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. We would also like to thank attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated team once again for researching and preparing this material for our presentation. See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration. Bye for now.